What rewarding aspect does being able to play in a band provide your life personally that other social interactions can come close to?
Playing in a band or playing in an original band, everybody kind of goes to work, comes home, does like everything, but what kind of separates humanity is creating something. If you're a caveman painting on the wall, they're beating on a stick in rhythm, and oh god, there's music. If you're creating something, it doesn't matter if you're painting or poetry or macaroni art, or as long as you're like making something out of nothing that wasn't there before, it takes you to a higher level of humanity.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Random Riffs podcast, brought to you by Jam Hut Studio. I'm your host, Peter Karras. Our mission here with Random Riffs is to provide a platform for original local musicians to showcase their greatest hits. And a big shout out to our team, The Weekly Wanderer, Connor O'Sullivan, covering all your live local performances, updates, and Ali Sun with Honey Lux Production. Out of the ashes of the 25th mission, ladies and gentlemen, we are very excited to present the second full band thus far, Phoenix Operandi. Welcome to the pod. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, what allowed you to sculpt such a legendary sound.
Oh, gosh, all right, come on, Ed, you start.
What legendary sound, basically. What's the 25th mission?
That's a good question, isn't it?
The last band...
I did some homework.
The last band, we're the same people minus the bass player, that we parted ways with him, but the original name was basically from World War II documentaries, like when American pilots were over in England, rather than their term of service being in years or months or whatever, it was like if you flew 25 missions, you were done with your service and you got to go home, but the average amount of missions was like 15 before you were killed, shot down, or whatever. So it was like a false hope, a promise, whatever. It's just a local band on Long Island doing original music, so it seemed fitting. But Phoenix Operandi came a lot more quickly. We were just like, had like Operation Phoenix, coming out of the ashes of the previous band, and then it was like Phoenix Operandi. It sounded just a little bit pretentious and such. So, and it was decided in about 2 minutes, and it looks cool in the logo. And
no one else has it on Google. That's the main thing. You search on Google, make sure no one else has it, or obviously that's pretty original.
Everything's taken out.
For sure, but. Definitely.
Although there is another Phoenix cover band on Long Island right about now that has Phoenix in it, but I don't think we're going to be mistaken. I don't think there's going to be any trademark issues or anything like that.
Are they also metal?
No. They're like a low. I think they're a. I don't want to say lower. They're just cover band,
Oh, I see. Okay, so they're not actually
not competing in the original music realm.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Well, I love the name Phoenix because obviously you got to rise out of the ashes all the time. And I have a question. If there was any influences that helped design the sound that you guys have today?
Well, we're all different, our individual, things that influenced us, mostly as a vocalist, bands like Iron Maiden, Dio, Queensryche, Pantera, Halloween, things of that nature. Mostly power metal, traditional heavy metal.
I hear a lot of Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson, and Years of Decline.
I totally agree.
Yeah, man. I was like, oh wait, listen, is that Bruce? No.
But there's some of our songs have a little bit of death metal, unclean vocals, like passages, so a little bit of melodic death metal. But just stuff also like Opeth or Symphony X is another big one that I was into. Dream Theater.
Oh yeah, Dream Theater is
prog metal band.
One of my main influences is a drummer, Mike Portnoy.
Nice.
He's kind of the reason that I picked up the sticks, and I'm like, okay. I was already playing. I've been playing since I was 8, but when I was like 14 or 15, my cousin showed me some really cool drummers, and I'm like, all right, I could probably do that.
They're from Long Island, right?
They're local, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
And some of my drumming has that progressive sort of technical aspects, but obviously grew up on a lot of Metallica. Master of Puppets was my first real metal album, and from then on, it's a whole different influences that I try to grab from, and playing with these guys and girl, and we all have our own things that we kind of grew up and shaped what we, how we play. So.
Can we just go around and introduce ourselves to the viewer, listeners?
All right. Well, I'm Ed Breitkopf. I'm the drummer, and I don't know.
Well, what else do you do?
I'm a drummer, and I'm
Hi.
Office worker.
Pat Pekarsik, guitar.
Mike Dyla, vocals.
Dana Heffernan, bass.
Awesome.
Right, heck yeah. Well, actually, that leads right into my second question, which is, what is one key to designing a successful sound?
Personally, what I feel, I've always been a metal guy, but a long time back, I come from Binghamton, took lessons, and went in for, the local guru guy, late Roy Ettinger, and I went in to play metal, and he started. You're going to learn Steely Dan, you're going to learn Clapton, you're going to learn Chuck Banjo, stuff like that. And just, and it was almost like an annoying, like wax on, wax off. Like, when am I going to fight? I want to pick and play fast. And you've got me, cleaning your cars and painting your house. But then when you go and play, it's just like, if you're purely metal, you have a lot of technical limitations. But, even things like Sultans of Swing and songs like that, there's great riffs in there that that climbing riff in there, and I've been stealing that and moving that all over for ever and ever. So part of it is like, okay, we're all thieves to a certain extent, and just steal from more original people. That's my.
But now looking back, you must be thankful that.
Oh my god! Vibrato. I'm still spent years trying to undo the damage that Kirk Hammett did to my bending and vibrato and my over reliance on Crybaby. I still do it a lot, but if you can get some outside influences to your core sound, then you spice it, and hopefully you sound a little different. Hopefully it works.
Pat, are you a Steve Vai guy?
No. The Shredder. I mean, I like songs. I like songwriting above technical ability. It seems like it's hard to find people that can do both. I mean, I worked at Guitar Center for a number of years in Comac, and every guitar player in there doing I'll See the Light Tonight, or sitting based up or doing that. I mean, I like it once in a while if some of those guys can put together a song with a chorus and a verse and write that. But you can sit down and listen to shredding and appreciate it. But in the end, I'm more about the songwriting, but I like the solo to be a song within a song, rather than just like over the verse riff and then over the chorus and then back in and then repeat the chorus without the music, shout at the devil style or anything. That's been done quite a bit. But I do like the solo to be a song within a song, and then key changes and all that. And then somehow it's like, okay, I'm all the way out here. How does it come back? And then that's the process, at least for me. How about you, Mikey? How do you approach it?
I don't play guitar. So, I just basically the pieces they hand off to me, some kind of an arrangement. Sometimes the songs write themselves pretty quickly. I have an idea. What does this remind me of? Some kind of synopsis of where the subject matter is going to go. And sometimes it fits in perfectly, and I have a song written within, 30 minutes. Others, there's a couple, it doesn't fit as well. Maybe it has to need to go a couple more measures. It needs to go, one more time, more cycle on the riff. Like that. And then sometimes other things develop and there's new arrangements, and you have to put our heads together and figure out.
You get an insight, and it's like, all right, that sounds better there. Let me put that there instead of, what it was. That's pretty good. I mean, like, some people just like scat over it, and then they're just like, all right, let's put in some words now.
Mike, will they come to you with like a melody or an idea or a riff and say, hey, what does this make you feel like? Or do you usually come with lyrics written prior to?
Well, no. Usually, I don't think I've ever written a song where I've just come up with a poem or some sort of 4 lines of this, and then hey, can you put something around this? I'm thinking in this key or whatnot. Usually, they're handing me like a whole bunch of riffs, even like a full arrangement. He'll send me.
Sweet.
Like the song's already written, and
I think it's written, and then he comes in and I'm like, oh, damn.
It's like 8 minutes long. We're like, all right, how do we get this?
What begins? What out of the 4 of you? What usually is the one that's like initiating? Like, all right, check it out. I have this like really cool little sound here.
Sometimes it starts out. We go to practice, and I'll have a riff, and I'll play it, and he'll play something along, and it's like, okay, that's cool. But I'll sit home, like I have some bass level simple freeware recording software and drum programming, and I'll sit there and I got an old Mexi bass around, and I'll sit there and I'll program drums, and I'll have like a thing, and I'll bounce it down to an MP3 and send it out. And some things have never went anywhere, and then other ones they get it together, but I don't like this part, or this doesn't work. And then sometimes it's first draft, and sometimes it's about 7th or 8th draft where it finally flows and we get through it. It's when it's done, but it's a lot of times it's just like, oh, it's just something, but that's basically the process.
How long have you been playing, Pat?
Oh, geez, since the 80s.
So the fact that you're able to do that from home, from when you started, does that kind of blow your mind?
You couldn't do it as an adult. Like in those days, you could rent a place all month, some shithole under a music store. Where I'm not on the radio. And you would have your party place, you would have your everything there, and you could hang out there, drink there, 3 guys a few nights a week for hours of drinking, and okay, try this, and write it, as an ensemble. But as adults with jobs and things like that, and most people, wives or girlfriends or whatever, husbands or fiancés, it's like you're going to be gone 3 nights a week for 3 hours somewhere.
But did you ever think that in the 80s, like today, you could do a drum track from your house, program the bass, and then send it to your drummer. That's amazing.
No, it is amazing. I mean, they had the Alesis, that old Alesis, drum machine that looked like it was like a separate, and it had a screen about this big, and you had to scroll, and it was very inconvenient. It wasn't all just laid on a screen, but it's just to be able to just write something, record something, and just email it to people, not even have to your cassette, set up a boombox and play and things like that. But
that was the worst.
I don't know. But yes, it's definitely makes the process more efficient and possible for. That's why a bunch of old guys are playing in crappy cover bands and doing the same 75% of songs, because it's just the process of doing it.
What do you think about that, Dana?
And the payoff's not always promised, so.
That's 100% true. Well, actually, I was curious, what defines true metal, and why do some bands that try to say that they're metal fall short?
Come on, Dana, answer a question. You got it. This is on you. Get the light, turn it to
Why don't you get up there?
True metal.
True metal.
I don't really like the defining of genres or really trying to categorize things. It's really like an expression that someone sees fit for saying what they want to say. But if you want like a real answer, I'd say no blast beats. But yeah.
I actually agree 100%.
I think the way purists and gatekeepers, that's not metal, that's new metal, that's not really metal, that's deathcore, that's metalcore, you can't consider that metal. To me, it's like, if it's heavy and you like it, listen to it. You don't have to put a label on it. This is it's like Opeth, jazz infused progressive death metal.
It all falls under the same umbrella.
But some of it, not all of it, falls under that, and there's no rules. And so
I always think back to, you ever see School of Rock? When he's like, all right, prog rock, and he's like punk, and he has the board, and all the bands are listed. I always think of that, but it always falls under one thing, rock.
That's where it comes from.
When you looked at Headbangers Ball back in the day, you would have they'd be playing Poison, Every Rose Has Its Thorn, and Slayer back and forth, because you only had 3 hours, and what's metal, but I don't know how to define it. I have opinions on metal I like and don't like. I like pure, clean vocals and singing, as opposed to more the Cookie Monster thing. Myself personally, but he likes the Cookie Monster.
I like unclean vocals.
I like stuff that
both.
pushes the limits too. Can I play it? No. But would I? Anything that really shows that there's some kind of technical background behind it, I'm always intrigued by it. But realistically, people, most people don't want to listen to stuff like that. They want to hear, a good vocalist, great solos, great back end, and what we have, so
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's tough to sing "Laid to Rest" at a like Prohibition in Massapequa. Not have people trying to walk out.
I mean,
It's been done. It's been done.
Yeah, you've had some bands.
I have every genre.
I sprinkle in a couple unclean vocals.
Oh yeah, okay.
But sparingly, so like, you know, people like pop up like, oh, do we have to leave? Oh, do we have to leave? Oh, wait, no, he's back.
Where
It's a blip, you know.
Yeah, that's cool though.
So, what rewarding aspect does being able to play in a band provide your life personally that other social interactions can't come close to?
You know,
That's great.
playing in a band or playing in an original band, I think everybody kind of goes to work, comes home, does like everything, but what kind of separates humanity is the, you know, creating something, you know, even if you're a caveman painting on the wall, you know, or beating on a stick and rhythm and, oh God, you know, there's music, you know, it's if you're creating something, you know, it doesn't matter if you're painting or poetry or macaroni art or whatever, but, you know, as long as you're like making something out of nothing that wasn't there before, you know, that's the thing. That takes you to a higher level of humanity.
I think there's a cathartic, you know, very cathartic thing to come, you know, I get to scream into a microphone, you know, it gets rid of stress, you know.
Something clean about that. You just like,
Yeah, and unclean too. You know, it's a both. You know, you do both. You get your frustrations, and you have a creative outlet. You know, write lyrics and whatnot. I also play ice hockey, so that where you could basically assault somebody and not go to jail.
oh wow,
You know?
yeah.
But I'm so kind of like a laid back guy, so I'm like, well, it's because I have metal and I have hockey and creative outlet, and you know,
Very cool. Very cool.
Very true.
Absolutely.
So, what inspired Years of Decline?
Years of decline, just basically the current state of affairs, just spending money we don't have, getting involved in wars that we shouldn't, the same mistakes being made over and over, war industrial complex.
History repeats, right?
Yeah, and it seems it's a cycle that we just can't get out of, and we don't want to learn. You're supposed to learn from history, but every generation keeps repeating it. Or at least every couple of generations.
When their grandparents are dead, then they're like, oh.
I was like, a lot of younger people haven't been around since the fall of communism in Eastern Europe, and now that's coming up again. And but then again, we weren't around for when there was fascism in Europe, so it's coming around. And it seems like the two are coming to a head, and it seems like people with common sense are pushed to the side, and the loudest voices seem to grab the headlines.
Strange times, to say the least.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
we're here now, happy and healthy. So,
Do you believe making music is a challenge?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not easy. I've been in bands in the past where, like Pat says, like you're just jamming for hours and you have a tape rolling, you have a cassette running, and you're like, oh, that's a cool riff, and you just parse through it listen to it, like, well, that's a cool riff. Like, you go, all right, so here's the tape, send it to them, right? So around 1 hour 23 minutes from there to 1 hour and 26 minutes. See where that part, that's the verse riff, right? Yeah. And then, like, if you put something like you did in hour 3 and 29 minutes, that would be if you put those two together and and just record that, and then they record that on that tape and give it back to me, and then that's why we only, after a couple of years, we only wrote like 5 or 6 songs. With that work and whatnot, you just didn't have time. I suppose, other than sitting in the studio.
Real life.
Bands that aren't working, don't have a day job, just sit around for every day, and they'll come out in the studio with written songs.
Yeah, a lot of material.
Oh, what a great set. Like when you see that famous picture, Iron Maiden with the sunset in the background, and they're in the Bahamas, it's like, okay, you've got a new singer, and we want you to record this album. We're going to set you up at the Bahamas with a studio, and this is your full-time job, and this is what you get to do. I mean, holy shit. I couldn't even imagine imagine, that how amazing that would be to be sent to a tropical island to write an album. But most of us are doing it amidst all the other,
We're also not that good as Iron Maiden.
We're not that.
We're not Iron Maiden.
We have, and especially in this day and age, it used to be you work part time for extra money. Now you got a part time job, to pay your full time bills. So it's there's just the time isn't there. So you got to be more efficient. Thus, technology it makes it possible. I don't think we could do it the old days. With our age group and whatever responsibilities are going on.
Yeah. Are you guys sitting on new material now? You guys working on it?
Yes.
Yeah, we're still writing. We got what about like 6 songs?
So we got 5 completed, 1 almost, and
completed.
I got the other in a couple of things, and then there's bits and pieces. A few more like nearly complete ideas, and then a pile of this riff that hasn't found a song yet, and this that hasn't found that. So eventually, at some point, they join together, or they disappear. Sometimes I go back through all the MP3s and the files, and like, oh, I remember that. We never did anything with that. It'll come back. There's things that are fragments, 5 to 6, 7-year-old fragments that might pop up. So yeah, definitely working towards the full CD. Original music, and to try to put a remake. Not a cover per se, but so plus another thing that we've been doing. The thought is like, you can keep doing original sets, 3 other bands, Village Pub, Mr. Beery's, for Long Island, for those who are like,
Whiskey
what the hell are those
Rocks,
places? Whiskey Rocks and all that.
Shaker.
But then the thought is, there's, these cover bands are out there making money, and, there's a ceiling to getting your original music heard, because there's very few bar-going, money-spending, drinking people that are going out to hear straight original music. There's a dedicated, following of people like that on Long Island, but there's probably about 300 of them, and if you're lucky, you can get about 50 at any given show at any given time. But then, I don't know if you've been down to the shore in the summer for like Salt Shack and things like that, and I bet there's 2,000 people out there, so it's like, there are people going out.
But they only want to hear covers.
Right, so how do you reach them and get your original music in front of
Everyone's fried. You're like talking to like brain dead people. It's
Right.
like they're all like they've scrolled the last drop of their
Right.
brain cells out.
them? So
into
the
the
philosophy,
city, though?
oh yeah, we have. But the philosophy is
How do we beat that? It's a broken
How do we
system.
do metal covers? So what we've been doing, we had some weird stuff like, we did a metal, the last band, we did like a metal version of Johnny Cash, Folsom
Prison.
Prison,
Cool.
Survivor into Rocky themes for that, and then we've been through. We've got a metal arrangement of Prince, When Doves Cry.
Oh, that's cool.
Kenny Loggins, Danger Zone with the intro.
Nice.
We've been working on Chicago 25. And the one that we've been working on right now, he came to me with, do you think you can do something with Phil Collins?
Easy Lover.
And I started playing with that, and then like for some reason I thought of Billy Ocean, Caribbean Queen. So I got a metal medley. It's gonna happen, So the thought is, all right, if we can get 3 hours of music and get in front of these larger crowds and be able to throw in the original music in that, and then fuck with people with songs that they know done in a totally different
Sprinkle
way
in.
like that. So the thought would be, still do the original sets at the places that support it, the great.
And plus, you need to fill the set if you only have 5 or 6 songs.
So, the thought would be like 25% original material, 75% beefed up covers, and try to play some full nights, and maybe take some and actually get these originals heard in front of a wider demographic.
Or if you ever want to record a cover album, this is the spot.
Honestly, you'll be able to see the sound quality when this comes out. Honestly, it's very good. Shout out to the Jam Hut. Shout out to Brian Mancuso. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's a really cool idea. I think it's awesome that you're going to be putting a twist on stuff that's already out, because that's creative. So like that puts the creative element in there, and it allows people to get a taste of what you guys are more about, which is whatever style that you guys are bringing to the table is now kind of like twisted onto it, and that gives it a better, you know.
Mikey's been fighting Staying Alive. I got a metal version of Staying Alive.
That's been backburned. He's done it. Tragedy's done it.
Ozzy just Staying Alive?
Yeah, with the Les Claypool from Brian. Yeah.
Check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty good actually.
What is one place that would be a dream for you to perform?
Walking.
Go to Europe and play whacking, you know.
Walking. We'll go with him. He's the German.
Yeah.
And one of those European festivals, the Bloodstock, Sweden Rock. What's the one in France? Was that Bloodstock? That's the one in England. Someone in England.
Some of those European, like, you know, when you see them.
Well, that's not metal. That is. But you know, that's one thing. Like in Europe, they have bigger music festivals for days, like 3 or 4 days.
For metal,
week.
right? You know,
metal and punk and hardcore.
Finland too, right? There's a lot of different
spots. They love
Eastern Europe that.
Yeah,
we got to work on our makeup.
Copenhagen, Denmark. Yeah, so like,
have you guys ever been to Europe?
Yeah, Mike's definitely the traveler out there.
I have family in Sweden. Actually, I go to Sweden Rock.
Sweet.
3rd year in a row.
Oh, nice.
I have family out there, so yeah.
Cool. Is there a song that feels the most you? Like, if you could recommend one song to listen to a new fan, what would you tell them to listen to?
Jeez, we don't have anything recorded yet. We're still, in the process of.
They're all new and fresh, so we're
compiling all the songs, and then we're eventually going to go in the studio. I don't know.
Well, I'd say maybe Trials and Tribulations.
Trials and Tribulations.
That was probably the first one.
The first one.
Any shot we could hear that tonight?
Yeah, we can play that for you.
We'll play that.
All right.
We can do that. See that one because it's because song length is kind of our thing. They tend to write about the 6-7 minute length, the interludes and the changes, and that one has like the clean like middle spot and clean, but a thrash, some thrashing. It's like to jump a lot of songs in one. Like to jump from different feels and different riffs. We have names for them when we're writing the songs. Kill 'em all is the snare on the and the the Flintstone is the bam 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 bam. Straight rock is the
and I'm like, okay, I know what you're talking.
Yeah, so it's like I need Flintstone. I need the Flintstones right there. I need Kill 'em all right there.
Do you
have the same anger like Lars?
no!
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Where's my trash can?
Dana, what made you want to pick up the bass?
My brother played guitar, and that was the other option available.
Okay.
I started playing the upright bass in school, and then I was bought an electric bass to learn on.
All right, cool.
Easier to fit into the car, for sure.
Definitely, space purposes.
And what about in terms of singing? How did you get involved in when did you start? How old were you when you started?
I'm self-taught. I sang in mainly was in bands in around college age teens. Was in a couple of shitty bands there. Took a hiatus when I graduated and didn't do anything until I got into my early 30s again. And then one of my friends wanted to start up a band. And because I heard you do karaoke. It's like, why aren't you singing in a band? Like, well, I'm starting a band, so you're going to be in it. I'm like, all right.
That sounds like where I'm
showed
at
up
right
there,
now.
then I met him.
Our meetup story is kind of interesting. It's basically it was just me and the previous bass player. And, trying to put together, and I had an idea. I'm like, I don't want to do anything low and sludgy and tuned down. Don't want any rappers or growlers. I'm staying in E. And Jeff Tate, Queensryche, was over at Revolution, closed bar, the one there in the corner, on 110. And I thought, well, maybe there's a fanboy there or something. Maybe there's somebody, the guys that, or there's some singer that we haven't met or don't know. And I just went down there. It was the stupidest plan ever, but I'm up front and I'm watching, and Mikey's behind me, and pretty sure it was "I Don't Believe in Love," and he was singing behind me, and that "I don't believe And I imitate Mike in the shower all the time. And I turned around like, dude, you got a band? He's like, I got like 3. And I was like, how about 4? And just exchanged information. You know, that was 2018, and still.
You kind of manifested that.
Yes, manifested.
You said it.
Wow,
and
the
it
track.
happened.
That track. I'm gonna find a singer tonight.
You're gonna get on Billboard.
Yeah, he was sitting at the bar and whatnot. I was like, can I get a beer? Like, yeah, okay, go ahead, man. And then finally, like, got a beer, standing. I started standing at the bar, like, sitting there singing along, and like, you sing? Like, yeah.
He's humble. He's humble. He's like,
It's pretty sweet.
I do all right.
Nice, man.
So what were you guys planning to sing today or play today? Actually,
Well, I mean, we got
Years of Decline.
Years of Decline.
maybe? Or?
I mean, I was hoping to feel like we said we got 2 songs, maybe 3 if we felt like screwing around. I don't know what the time limit is or the.
No, we can do 2 or 3. That's cool.
And maybe even bust out one of the goofy covers if you're so inclined.
kind of cool, man. Maybe you could do the one that he was saying. That
We don't have to predict it yet. He sent the file over for me to listen to, and I'm like, I'm still.
All right, maybe next time.
Next. But just a plug. I mean, we're playing Saturday at Whiskey Rocks. If you guys don't have any podcasts or anything coming on down, by all means, come on out and got three bands there that night.
Rebel 9 and
Terra Garden. Awesome. We're playing.
Okay, cool.
But if you felt like coming on down, feel free.
We'll see if I might be able to. Yeah. Where can people find your stuff?
Nowhere really.
Well, I mean, we don't have any actual set recordings. We have video from live performances. If you go on
YouTube,
Facebook, YouTube, Instagram.
So technically, this is exclusive.
Exclusive. This is ground floor stuff.
That's awesome right now. This is, you know what I mean? You can only get it right here, right now, until they.
So I want to know from you, where can we see us?
This is going to literally be. I'm saying it. It's going to be epic. Let's make it happen, honestly. And I'll definitely. We are the Random Riffs podcast. We're on Spotify, YouTube.
Check out our Instagram, obviously. We'll give you some stickers. You can hand them out to your friends, QR code, and they can scan it and see us. And Phoenix Operandi, everybody.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
We are Phoenix Operandi. We'll play a couple of songs for you. This one's called Coward's Errand.
Little things like I'm a
All right, this one's called Trials and Tribulations.
We're
we'll cover. A little bit of Prince for you.
Engaged in a kiss, the spread of your body covers me. Can you, my darling, can you picture this? If you will, come your oceans of violence and blood. Number one strike, they kill me. My stomach, feel how it trembles inside. You got the butterflies on time, so big the
Hi, my name is Connor O'Sullivan, and I am your weekly wanderer. This week in Long Island Live Music, tomorrow night, Wednesday, May 13th, at Aura Coastal, we have Lauren Craig at 6 p.m. Next night, Thursday, May 14th, at Craft in Wanta, we have Kevin Hart at 7:30. Then at the Bowie Bar, we have Anthony Gall at 6 p.m. Friday the 15th, at Lunchbox Brewery in Belmore, we have Clover's Curfew at 6. Then at the Coop, you have Eric Lobitz at 5:30. And this Saturday at Borelli's, we have Country Fest all day, starting around 12, 1 o'clock, and Random Riffs will be there with a table and a booth, so be sure to say hi, answer some questions, have fun. At the Audrey in Oyster Bay, we have Jack McGalley at 8 p.m., and then Sunday, to top it off, at the Spotlight Paramount, we have Karen Bella at 5 p.m., and again, all weekend is the Country Fest at Borelli's. If you see us, be sure to come out to the booth, say hi, grab a sticker, have some fun.
Subscribe to